Welcome back to episode 32 of Not Another Moto Pod, hosted by Sam Peary. This week we will be covering the Budds Creek finale of the 2025 motocross season, round 11 here. 4 moto winners on the day, a championship wrapped up, and some really interesting storylines going into SMX in both classes. So let's get started. Jumping into the 250 results, and of course Hayden Deegan going 2-1 on the day. Obviously had been penalized along with Joe Shimoda in Moto 1. Cross the line 1-1, of course. Rode really well, really put together. This finale race was the culmination of what he has done all season. He's really kind of got pinched off early. In Moto 1, there was, of course, a red flag restart after that. And then I mentioned he was penalized for jumping on the red flag there. On the second start, he started much better, had a really good ride, rode his way to the front, and just did his thing out there. Joe tried to put in a bit of a push, but just did not have anything for him on the day. Again, with the penalty going 2-1, but plenty enough for the overall and to clinch the championship. So really good there for Hayden Deegan. That'll be his last career 250 motocross ride. That is his second consecutive 250 outdoor title. Kind of just wrapping things up, putting a bow on his 250 career there. Obviously hope to see him do the same at MXON in a couple weeks. Will be his first ride on the MXON team here at Ironman. Would be really good to see Deegan put it together with that team, a strong team with Chase Sexton and Eli Tomac as his teammates. Second place on the day, Joe Shimoda going 3-2 on the afternoon. As I mentioned, he was penalized as well. Would have gone 2-2 on the day. Joe rode really well. Really kind of got shafted a bit by the restart there in Moto 1. Did not have as good of a start as he did in the first start. But rode his way, of course, to second. Has just been really aggressive on the opening laps these last few weeks and has looked really good. In Moto 2, a better start, and just rode again his way to the front. These guys have shown that they are the class of the field, Joe and Deegan, lately. And Joe has been hot in these last few weeks, but of course Deegan did such good work early in the season and stayed so consistent throughout, minus a moto or two here or there. It really was only the one moto where he had bike issues that really put him back. But Deegan had such a big lead, on the season that Joe really had not much to fight for. He had a huge lead on third place in the championship as well. But a really good ride for Joe Shimoda. Really interested to see what Joe's going to do in SMX. I really think he can fight for that title there with Deegan. Third place on the day, Levi Kitchen, 4-3. Really showing flashes of what we've had hoped to see from Levi on the year. We have seen it here and there. He had a couple podiums this season, but the last few weeks have not been good. Has been having one good moto and one bad moto, which has really been shafting him in the overall. Of course, going 4-3 in Moto 1, he made a lot of passes to make his way forward. Moto 2, he had a pretty good start and was able to just fight up to third place. So really good riding there by Levi Kitchen. It did finish fourth overall in the series. Fourth place overall on the day and third overall in the series was Garrett Marchbanks, going 8-4 on the day. Two pretty decent starts. We see this a lot from him. He's back past 15th and just has to make a ton of passes. I believe he was around 10-12 in the first moto and could pass his way up to 8th after the red flag restart. And then in Moto 2, of course, we had another restart, and he started in like 6th place off of that staggered restart. I was really surprised to see him only get up to 4th place with the way he has made passes this year, but he did get caught for quite a while behind Nate Thrasher and was unable to move forward to go get Levi there late in the moto. So 4th overall on the day, but as I mentioned, 3rd overall in the series points for Garrett Marchbanks. Though it was quite a ways away from Deegan and Joe overall, we obviously saw the consistency all season from Deegan and Joe, and the rest of the guys here, Levi, Garrett Marchbanks, even Ty Masterpool a bit. Who else? Tom Vial. Guys like that really just had some inconsistent weekends that really threw them well behind the 8-ball there in the overall championship points. 5th on the day, and I believe a career best, if not maybe tying a career best, Nate Thrasher going 7-5 on the day. Nate led laps. He looked actually really good on the day. Garrett Marchbanks mentioned at some point that Nate is a guy who's really hard to get past. He plays good defense, so really good riding there by Nate Thrasher, and really good to see him kind of put things together here late in the season. We know he's been all the way up and down. He's had weekends where he hasn't scored points. He had weekends out where he was hurt. And then he's had 2 weekends inside the top 10 where we thought he looked really good and just couldn't build on those. Sixth place on the day. Speaking of building, Ty Masterpool going 6-6 for sixth place. His best ride overall of the season. Obviously, we saw him win a race last year. But Masterpool here really putting it together. He had a lot of rides, similar to, as I discussed, with Levi Kitchen. Of course, again, with like Jordan Smiths, these type of guys, putting together one good moto, but not putting together an entire day. I believe this was Ty Masterpool's first day putting together 2 top 10 overall results. So really good riding there for Ty Masterpool. I don't know what to expect from him going into the SMX season. That'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, just has not had the all-out speed that he had last season. But did lead some races early in the year and kind of showed flashes of speed as we've seen from him. And I believe he's raced this SMX class on the 450 a couple years ago and did pretty good in the first SMX season back in 2023. So interested to see what happens there. Seventh place on the day, Cole Davies going 117. That one is a bit of an outlier there. Of course, he, finished on the podium in Moto 1 and inherited that win with Deegan and Joe being penalized. So even the third place that he crossed the line early in Moto 1 was much of an improvement. He went 23-23 last week, did not even score points in his first overall motocross race. But here this weekend, got a really good start in both of the starts in Moto 1, the normal start and the red flag restart, and put himself in a really good position. And we know when Davies is up there, he does not make mistakes. He just rides perfect laps. And so that really lended to him finishing there in third place. In the second moto, he had not a great start, and then off the staggered start, I believe he crashed at some point. He was in 15th going into the staggered start, dropped back to like 23rd again at some point, and was able to fight forward to 17th to pick up some points there. So 117 on the day, but some flashes of what we may look for from Cole Davies in the future. Eighth place on the day, Drew Adams, another good qualifying day for him, but going 5:10, 5 matching his best overall moto finish of the year with a couple weeks ago, and 10, a solid finish there for him from Drew Adams. He looked pretty comfortable up front. We saw him up front early after the first red flag restart in Moto 1 and just looked pretty solid and, was just passed by some of the faster guys late there in that moto. Ninth place on the day, Ryder DeFrancisco, 10-8. A good overall result from him. Did not see much of him, in the battle or anything. I believe I mentioned this last week as well. He's kind of in the back of that fast pack, but he is up there with some of the guys and, shows flashes here and there, but just hasn't really been able to put it together for a really good overall score. 10th place here, Dylan Schwartz, 13-9 on the day, a much improved bounce back from last week. 11th place, Max Folan going 15-11 on the day. Rough Moto 1 after the red flag restart, but a solid finish in Moto 2. 12th on the day, Dax Bennick, 16-12. He's had a couple good weeks of bouncing back after a really tough first motocross race of the season where he did not score points. So really good for Dax Bennick there to go 16-12. 13th, Seth Hamaker, 36-7 on the day. Really unfortunate. He was riding up in 4th, 5th in Moto 1, and his bike gave up on him. Not sure what happened there, whether it was a chain or something in the engine. Late in that moto with only about 2 minutes left, and he did, of course, DNF and get 36 officially, which really screwed up his overall. Really should have been a 4-7 or a 5-7 day for maybe 6th or 7th overall. Would have been a really good way to finish off the season for Seth Hamaker. I do really look to see what Seth has in the SMX series. He looked obviously really fast in the Supercross season, was one of the favorites for that title, and then, of course, we had the incident at the finale there that took him out of it. But Seth looked really polished this year. Not as good in motocross, maybe as I expected personally, but definitely put together some solid rides, and look to see what he can do in these next 3 rounds. 14th on the day, Caden Dudney, 17-13 on the afternoon. Solid finishes there for Caden Dudney. The rookie, of course, bouncing in. This is only his second week, I believe, racing. 15th, Jordan Smith, 9:37 on the day. Not sure what happened there in Moto 2. Obviously a DNF. I believe we saw him ride off at some point, but another solid ride. He did, of course, get his 2 top 10 Moto finishes last weekend, so finally kind of put one together, but was unable to back it up this weekend. 16th on the day, Austin Forkner, 14-19. Not much to say about Forkner. We did see him have a crash off the initial start in Moto 1, so probably quite a ways back after the restart. Not sure what happened, of course. But, I mean, I don't really know much to say about Austin Forkner's season. He made it through the season, was the only Triumph guy other than Jordan Smith to do so, and Smith missed some race during Supercross, so I guess that's a positive if you're Austin Forkner and have lost so much of your career to injury. So maybe that's a step in the positive direction for him, and he can build off of that next season. 17th on the day, Tom Bial, really weird. 11 DNS there, did not start Moto 2, said he had issues with the bike, and just it was kind of a weird thing where he decided not to race in Moto 2. I'm not sure we've seen that happen very often. 11th place in Moto 1, obviously he faded. He got the whole shot on the initial start and on the red flag restart, led some laps, and then, of course, had a crash that gave Cole Davies the lead at some point after that restart. But again, yes, to fade back to 11th is whatever, it happens if you're not comfortable with the bike, but to not start that second moto was a very odd decision there from Tom Bial. As we know, he is probably going to leave, so not even starting his last moto of his 250 overall career at all, really, outside of these 3 SMX rounds. And I don't know that we see him. I think he's not on the France team for MXON. So, yeah, really weird to see him kind of end his motocross career there by just not starting the race. We know he's going to go 450s when he goes back to MXGP next year. So, not sure what to say about that. 18th on the day, Cullen Park going 19-15, a good bounce back from Cullen Park. 19th, Juju Beaumer, 12:39 on the day. Solid finish in 12th. Obviously, last week he was within the top 5 in both motos, looked really good. And then there in the second moto, he caused the red flag after making contact with Parker Ross, and it looked like he KO'd himself. It was a pretty bad crash there by Juju, so DNF, of course, there in Moto 2. Hope he's all right for SMX. 20th, Landon Gibson, 23-14, scoring his first points of his pro career there in Moto 2. Obviously raced last weekend and did not qualify. And then, of course, did not score points in Moto 1. So good to see him put some points on the board and have a solid finish in 14th there in Moto 2. 21st overall, Lux Turner, 21-16 on the day. Solid riding there by Lux. 22nd, Stav Orlan, 35-18. I would assume that's a DNF there in Moto 1. 23rd, Parker Ross going 18-31. I mentioned again the crash that he had in Moto 2, and then, of course, which led to Juju running into him there. So, rough day, of course, for Parker Ross, who we've seen finish many times inside the top 10 this season. 24th on the day, Dalton Venter. Never heard of the kid. Good for him. 26-20. 25th, Brock Bennett bouncing in for the season. Haven't seen much of him this season as far as scoring points, going 20-34 on the day, so a solid Moto 1 there. And then 26th, Hayes Edwards, another guy I have never heard of, going 33-21 on the day. Solid riding there and scoring some points for Hayes Edwards. Your champion, of course, in the 250 class is Hayden Deegan, winning it overall over Joe Shimoda in second place, and then Garrett Marchbanks quite a ways back in third place overall for the series. Moving over to the 450 class, where we had a pretty boring and relatively drama-free day. Obviously, the championship has been wrapped up as of last week with Jet Lawrence taking the championship. Jet Lawrence did put a stamp on it this weekend by going 1-2 for the overall yet again. Got a whole shot in Moto 1, had a nice battle with Jay Coop very early in that moto, and then just ran away with it. Moto 2, he had another good start. Got in the second, and he kind of just let Hunter have that one. I don't think he pushed, and Hunter didn't make a mistake the entire race, so he followed up in second place. So 1-2 on the day for Jet Lawrence, again, putting a stamp on his second 450 motocross championship. Second place, as I mentioned, was Hunter Lawrence, going 3-1 on the day. A terrible start in Moto 1. Not something we see very often from Hunter, but we have seen a couple of them this year. It's like as if he doesn't whole shot, he's back in like 13th or something. But this might have been his best ride. In Moto 1, he rode very good to get to the front, passed RJ late in that moto and was making a push to go get Jay Coop for second place. Unfortunately, had to settle for third. Second moto there, he got the whole shot as he is accustomed to, and again, just did not make a mistake the entire race. probably knew that Jet was not going to push much behind him, and these two just rode away from everybody else. And he rode perfect to click off another moto win in his career. So another second place there for Hunter Lawrence. He did, of course, solidify second place in the championship as well with that finish. Third place on the day, Justin Cooper going 2-4, back to the Justin Cooper that we saw earlier in the season. Again, in Moto 1, he had a really good start and battled Jet there for a couple laps early in the race. Could not obviously hang there with Jet for the rest of that moto, but solid for second place and held off Hunter and RJ at different points in that moto. Second moto, he rode well again, getting up into fourth place, and again, just kind of solidifying that he is still one of the guys. He is going to go into SMX with the red plate, but he has, kind of showed that he still has the speed and is doing that through hard work and good racing, not just his consistency on the season. Of course, Jay Coop's the only guy who will have raced every race on the season, so has quite a big gap on second place going into the SMX championship. Fourth place, RJ Hampshire, 4-3 on the day. RJ's been incredibly consistent lately, riding well. Did get passed late in Moto 1 by Hunter Lawrence, but is just riding really good overall and has stepped into that spot that AP kind of gave up when he stepped out of the series with his illness. Another week where I say that Barcia, Malcolm, and Dylan Ferrandis are all interchangeable. This is the third week that Dylan Ferrandis has raced, and this is the third week that these three have finished right next to each other in the overall results. This week in fifth place, Justin Barcia going 8-5 on the day, Malcolm Stewart going 7-6 on the day, and Dylan Ferrandis going 6-7. All these guys are kind of in their own battle. These guys, not quite within the top four. Good for Barcia to get fifth this week with Eli struggling, of course. Eli did finish eighth there, but with these three, again, they're kind of, all around each other. This is the third week in a row. They're in their own battle. Malcolm Stewart did get a career best 6 overall finish there, so really good for Malcolm. Ferrandis 6-7. Eli Tomac going 5-8 on the day. A really tough Moto 2. He started in essentially last and passed a ton of guys to get up to 8th place, so a good ride despite the results there for Eli Tomac. 9th place on the day, Valentin Guillaume, 12-10. Just been very consistent all season, has been right on that fringe of that top 10 and has a couple top 10 overall, so really good riding there by Valentin Guillaume. 10th place on the day, Jorge Prado, 11-10 on the afternoon. We all know his struggles in the qualifying session. He qualified 43rd, got in through a provisional, and then got good starts in both motos and did fade back, of course, but just showed that he can ride up front, but obviously still struggling with something. Whether it's a bike, whether it's personal, it is what it is. 11-12 on the day for 10th place. 11th overall on the day, Cody Schock going 9-15. Really surprised to see that he actually dropped back as far as 9th in Moto 1. He's very familiar with the track, and I believe he was in 3rd place off the start. So would like to see maybe if he could hang with that, Malcolm Barcia Ferrandis group, but 9-15. Good overall nonetheless on the day for Cody Schock. 12th place, Harry Koulas, 14-11 on the day. Did not see much of Koulas. 13th, Kyle Webster, 29 on the day. 9th place overall in Moto 2. Really good riding there for Kyle Webster. Matches his best. I believe he had a 9th place last week in a Moto as well. 14th, Lorenzo Locurcio, 15-16 on the day. 15th, Shane McElrath, going 13-18. Good bounce back for Shane, picking up on a few positions that he lost last week. 16th, Mitchell Harrison, 10:38, was riding well in Moto 2 and his bike gave up. Really unfortunate there. Could have had a much better overall score, especially after that 10th place in Moto 1. He's riding really well late in the season. 17th, John Short, going 19-14 on the day. I believe that's his best overall for the season. There for John Short, jumping into the series late. 18th, Marshall Welton, going 28-13. 13 in Moto 2 is really good for Marshall Welton. That's a good Moto finish there. 19th, Matty Jorgensen, 17-19. Good to see Matty Jorgensen continue to put in point-scoring rides here. At the back of the pack nonetheless, but continuing to score points in every moto. Good riding there for Matty Jorgensen. 20th, Jeremy Hand going 16:22 on the afternoon. 21st, Romain Pap going 22:17. Just never kind of got it together this season that we saw from him a couple years ago. I believe in 2023 was kind of his breakout season, and just has not gotten back to that speed. He's been back near the 19 to 22 overall all year long, but good riding nonetheless and continuing to score points. 22nd, Jack Rogers going 18:29 was riding up front in the top 5 quite a while in Moto 1 actually. Did fade back, of course, but really good riding there after a really good start in Moto 1. 23rd overall, Justin Rodbell going 26:20 on the day. I know that 26 in Moto 1 has to hurt. Rodbell is a local guy to Buds and has spun countless laps at this track, but good to see him bounce back in Moto 2 for a 20th place. 24th overall, Max Miller going 30:21 on the day, and 25th in your final point score for the day, Bryce Shelley going 21:34. Unfortunately, joining the 0 points club this week would be Benoit Paturel. We saw him go down there in Moto 2. He went 24:40 on the day. Paturel's much better than that, assuming crashes in both motos. Again, obviously, Moto 2, we did see him down. We have one weekend off, and then we go to SMX. The first round is, I believe, Charlotte, ZMAX Dragway, Charlotte, St. Louis, and then Vegas, I believe, is the schedule this season. I will, I guess, do a separate preview pod for SMX, as I have done for the Supercross and Motocross seasons here, so look out for that sometime next week. And that's all we've got. If you want to follow us on Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify at Not Another Moto Pod. Thanks for listening.